This is incredible. This is the village called Dallas in Sibiu, Romania. My wife and I spent 3.5 years, and this is where we started. We were told it's impossible to reach these people. And we got a lot of I said then, a lot of, well, what if this? What if they bulldoze these gypsy villages, this gypsy village down after we build a church there? What if this wicked atheist that was doing work in there, that hated Christianity, that was providing and working with social services to provide food to the children, what was she going to say? What was she going to do if we started a Bible study there? What if? And of course, I've been saying now, after we come back to America, and we started one church that was still going in Sickendale, which I call the miracle at Sickendale. I think we can call this now the miracle at Dallas, because these things should not have happened. We were told they were impossible. It had to be all God. Let's see if I can move this on. We're told the whole village turned out. We're told that 4 were baptized this day, and that 20 had been baptized before. There's just a few of the videos. That was sent to me. My wife and I returned after 3.5 years, and boy, a lot of skepticism, a lot of criticism. We were even called failures. But this is what's happened. This is what's happened in that village. Now, I'm not sure exactly how this came about. I do know that this man here, I'm told his name is Andre, and he attended some of our last meetings with the gypsy woman out of this village whose house we met in. He is now preaching. I can't wait to find out more details on this. It's a wonderful thing. We were honored by these people. And I was told that, well, they're just doing that because they want something. And we were told, different people, that they were unreachable. They'd been missionaries here for years, had been working and trying to do things in this village, and nothing had happened. All I know is it wasn't me, except the fact that I know without a shadow of doubt that God called my wife and I to Romania to minister to these people. And so we did, up to the very end. And we were there 3.5 years. And, that was a miracle in itself that we even got there, that we even showed up. Through the COVID crisis, dealt with that, been locked in, almost locked in our home, unable to go out except to get groceries and pharmaceutical needs. And yet we see what God's done through all of this. And this is a thriving church now, I'm told. Well, if you got 20 baptism, I'm told there's a revival going on here. And the whole village turned out. We had a handful when we were there, but this young man was one of them. Thanks to friends and others that helped, we heard very few that believed in what we were doing here in this village. But I had a little support. A lot of misconceptions, a lot of biases against these people. I was even told that they were just different. There was something about them. They were almost created different. They just could not respond to the gospel. We see what's happened. I refused to give up. You might say, well, you did. You came home after 3.5 years. That was God's doing too. Trust me. He knew he had someone else to step into our place and to take over. That would take both of those churches even further than what I would have been able to probably. But he sent us there to get them started. And he gave us the faith. Yeah, I wasn't born with faith. He gave us the faith to see it through. I've told the story before, how before we went, our house was hit here in North Carolina, western North Carolina, by a tornado. And I went, just myself and our big German Shepherd was home. I pulled things out of the closet underneath the stairwell, shoved the dog in, went in and pulled the door shut. It would not latch. I let it go and the door just swung open. Pulled it again, it swung open. 3 times I pulled it. Wondering, well, the wind's just going to suck that open if the tornado gets us. And it was just about there. The Holy Spirit said, if I've called you to Romania, how do you think you're going to die here? I just let the door go. I said, okay. I know that even if I come out and find no roof over my head when I come out, I'm convinced that I'm going to be okay. And I was. And still had a roof overhead, even though we had a couple trees. One of them landed on the house, one just missed. And we had some other damages, but they were minor compared to that. God looked after us. We went to Romania, and God did a mighty work. I've told people it was hard work. And yet at the same time, it was almost seemed like felt like I could almost just sit back and put my feet up and see what God was going to do next, because he was the one that was doing it all. So here we are, a number of years later. And like I say, after we come home, I got a number of negative, thoughtless comments. Some of them, I don't think people really thought about what they were saying. They assumed things. Some assumed that just because we come home after 3.5 years that nothing happened. Nothing could be further from the truth. My wife, Cathy, and I were able to go to a missions conference in Sweden. Leysen, I believe it was. I believe the name of the place. Leysen, maybe. But we were there. Thought maybe we might learn a little something. I had no clue. We'd started a couple Bible studies at that time. That was after our first year, just right at the end of the first year. We'd started a worship service there at the children's home that we were connected with, Finding Hope. We were not sure. I had no clue. Well, how is this good? Is it bad? Are we lagging behind? Or is this average for missionaries to accomplish in this amount of time? I had no idea. So we went to the missions conference. We're surprised, or as a matter of fact, shocked about when people begin to ask us. These people have been on the mission field for a long time, most of them. A number of years. They've been coming to this missions conference every year. Almost all confided that they had been struggling recently. Some were disappointed, some were discouraged. And as we met there for that week, as we had meals together, as different people wanted to come and sit with us and talk to us. They just could not believe that what we'd had accomplished in such a short time. And so that left us feeling confident that we were on the right track. However, like I say, we still, the missionaries that were there, and no reflection on them, but I think they'd been there so long. Many of them had they were discouraged, I think, and they were at the point of giving up on some of these people. I think some of it was a lack of understanding, a lack of patience, maybe. My God is a patient God, and so He's taught me patience through the years. But many times I saw these gypsy people come to the church that we were attending in downtown Cebu, and someone would go pick them up once in a while, but not always did they have room. And then I watched also as they were at the church how so many of the church people, and these were good people, but even the pastor seemed to ignore them for the most part. And so they didn't come for long. And then, well, that's accused. Well, if they can go to the mall, they can get to town somehow, they can get to church. And they were just written off. Well, they're just lost. They just can't be saved, or something along that line. And different people, different thoughts. But I was never deterred. I continued. I was steadfast to the end. We did an outreach in this village in 2017. My wife and I spent 2 weeks there. The house there that you see in one of the videos, I think, I'm not sure if I showed it on this one or not. I had a number of videos to pick from, but I helped to finish that house, put a roof on it during that 2 weeks, because there's a deadline that had to be met to get that house completed for the people that had paid for it and the money that's been there. And so I felt compelled to help put that roof on. But it meant I didn't get to do much evangelism. And so we finally got to do one outreach. And after we finished, and that was that was an experience in itself. But those 3 gypsy ladies came up and said that they had prayed to receive Christ at the end of that service. And one of them, when we came back the next year, invited us to have a Bible study in her house. She wanted to have a Bible study in her house. And later she confided she wanted to have a house church, because we'd talked about that also. Because this was such a wicked place. And as a matter of fact, I'll just be honest with you, I was told by a Romanian that had worked in this village and other gypsy villages, and I was told that I needed to call and talk to him before we went to Romania to get, some, I guess, what the term, insight into what this village was like and what it was like be like ministering there. And this is what he said. If you're coming to this village, you've been there and you're coming to minister in this village, I know it has to be of God, because this is the second meanest place in the country of Romania. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it says something. And it was a wicked place. But you know what? Before we left, this lady that had invited us to have a home church in her house told me one day as we were waiting for a few people to show up, said, this place has changed. Well, you can see it's changed a whole lot. We had a handful in that little house church, and you see what turned out here. This is just unheard of. This is what God does when man says God can't. I'm gonna have to, I didn't intend to go this long. I'm gonna have to sit down just a minute. Hip, that just won't let me stand for too long. And that was one of the reasons, some of the health problems that my wife and I both were having. Plus, Putin starting his mess in the Ukraine next door to Romania had a great impact on our coming back home when we did. And now a lot of people thought maybe I think we're scared and left. No, that was not it. It was a number of things that had to be put together, and we prayed over it. We prayed over it and felt confident that God was through with us there in Romania at the time. We'd done all we could do, partly because maybe my limitations. Just put it this way, the reason I called that church at Sickendale the Miracle Church was because that I'd never started a church before. And of course, there's some other people involved with this. I didn't do it entirely by myself. People put up money for it. People believed in us, in me. People believed, just a couple, maybe, Americans believed that we could do that job. But I had never started church before. I'd never pastored a church before. 72 years old when we started. As I said, that church shouldn't exist, but it does. This church should never have gotten started, but it did. We were told this could not happen. This is impossible. But you see with your own eyes, the whole village turned out for this. And the man that sent it to me, this was sent by personal message, so I'll not openly mention it yet, where it came from. But he was one that believed in me. And just a few others. Now the Romanians, that was a different matter. I had most of them, even though there's a few exceptions, most of them knew that we came there because we'd been sent by God. And we were. It's not something I wanted to do. Not something I was ready to go. Not, as a matter of fact, I complained with God about it a little bit. I said, Lord, why'd you wait till I'm this old? Why you wait till I'm an old man, and then send me to Romania? Well, I don't know, maybe it just took him that long to get me to where I had the faith to go. But we went. You see what happened. I think it's in 1 Kings. If I mention the chapter, I'll probably get it wrong, but I think I'll take a stab at it. I think it's 1 Kings 17. I think it was King Ahab, where, think of his name a minute, Ben-Hadad of Syria came against Jerusalem. They had conquered most of the country, but they came against Jerusalem. Outside the walls, they hollered up to tell the king, and I think the king maybe come out. They told him, Ahab, everything you have is going to be ours. Everything you have is going to be mine. All your wives are going to be mine. All your gold is going to be mine. Everything you have will be mine. And tomorrow. Well, they went out. Had 30 kings with them, I think. I'm not sure if that's the first time or second time. Anyway, what happened was that God delivered even that wicked King Ahab. He helped him because he delivered his people. They defeated the Syrians. They went back. God said, don't get something to the effect of don't get too overconfident. They'll be back again in 1 year. 1 year. And they were. And what Ben-Hadad's prophets told him was, go back. Fight them this time in the plain. We fought them on the hills the last time, or the mountains. And evidently their God is God of the hills. He's not God of the plains, because they believed in different gods for different areas. So they said, if we go back and fight them in the plains, you can defeat them this time, because their God's not a God of the plains. Well, guess what? God came and told the prophet to tell Ahab, said, hey, get your army together. They've come back. You go out to meet them. I'm going to give you the victory, because they've said that I'm just the God of the mountains, just the God of the hills. So be careful when you say God can't or well, God won't. He just might show you. I hope this encourages some people. Be careful who you discount. Yeah, I'm just a poor, common man that God called. It's kind of like he told Paul, my strength is made perfect in weakness. Well, he had plenty to work with. And sure enough, a lot of people didn't see anything when this old boy showed up in Romania and in other places. The Romanians did. Like I say, they honored me in a number of places we went. My interpreter and his wife told me when we first met them that they'd been praying God would send somebody to minister in that village. When we ministered in that village, there's a couple of pastors that had already been working there some. And one of them said that They'd never had a musical instrument before. And so just the week before, they were praying that God would send someone with a musical instrument who could play a musical instrument. And there I showed up with my guitar. They had no doubt who sent me there. And had several instances like that. People said, we were praying for somebody for this, that. And here you are. Thank God. He is still working miracles. What you saw in that video, this video, He wants to do in my community. He wants to do it in your community. You say, oh, that's a bad place. He wants to do it for our nation. And you say, oh, we're too far gone. Nope, we're not. We're not. Your community is not. We serve a mighty God. A mighty, mighty God. Able to do abundantly more than we can even ask or think. To try him and see. Dale Little. So now we've got the church, the miracle in Sickendale. We've got the miracle in Dallas. Now, I didn't start this church. I'm still waiting. I don't know how it started, if it was an overflow from the church I started or not. So I'm not going to lay claim to that. And it really is not that important, except it would be to me as a means encourage me. Because when I left Romania, I left rejoicing at what God did and still rejoicing at what God did in that place called Sickendale. But my greatest regret was that it looked like all the work we'd put into this village of Dallas was just going to go backwards and be for naught. Well, it doesn't look like that's going to be true. But we'll see where it goes now. Dale Little, Rescue American Ministries.